Welcome. Let's begin with our class today. We'll be talking about the West Bengal paper, and here we would be focusing on the passage questions for the first. So this passage question that's there talks about the NIRF ranking for the universities. Now the sole idea for this passage is that we are doing the rankings, but what has been the basis for the ranking, and is it a kind of actually a good representation of the higher standard education in India? So the first line of the passage talks about who's who. Now this refers definitely to the top institutes of the universities and the research centers across India, and that has been mentioned in the very first section of the paragraph, the who's who of the university published by the MHRD. So that's how we understand the first question. The next question was, which of the regions have participated in NIRF? So it's basically the southwest, southeastern and the western regions that are there. So southern, southeast and western have been the answer. From the choices we have just two of those, that's the western and the southeastern, so those become the correct answer. The next question is, which of the following parameters basically does not talk about the faculty to be important while determining the talks about the faculty to be important for determining the worth of the institution. So vision for leadership is something that's really important, and it has been clearly mentioned in the passage here, where it has been talked about the vision for administrative leaders and commitment to excellence, and from here we can exactly find out what has been talked about. Now NIRF institutions for ranking, we have all the three criteria that are correct that have been mentioned here. It's faculty with doctorate degrees, it's the diversity of the students, and it's the record of the research that has come up. So all of those three become the correct parameters. So if we go back onto the question, paper published in the journals, the qualified faculty and the diversity, all three of those are the correct measures, and these are the actual measures that have come up from NIRF ranking system, but that's not something that you have to include. I've just put down to help you understand that this is a kind of real passage that's there. The next is, which of the following is true according to the passage? So according to the passage, the ranking system has been criticized for failing to capture the critical metrics of the learning outcome, and that's the only thing that the passage is trying to talk about, and that's very important, and has been from this passage where it has talked about the inadequate representation and the explanation of the critical outcomes have not been mentioned. So those are the things that have been talked about. Now study of location of a coal mine in India by a student of geography laboratory in geographical laboratory is definitely a learning experience. You are learning how to take down the concepts in an academic setting. The next is, teaching is more effective when the learner uses an interactive method. So when the learner is talking about interactive method, you have much more levels of retention and much more level of interaction. The rest three are kind of one-sided methods that we can say, and therefore not that important. The next question is, direct instruction in a teaching style. Direct instruction is a teaching style in which teacher is actively engaged, because there is no discussion, no seminar, no workshop that is taking place, but in any case, whenever a teacher is giving an instruction, teacher has to be fully occupied with it. So teacher's engagement is something that's really important, and that's the right answer for this question. The next question, you have to match the list with the correct answers here. So collaborative learning, you are talking about the interpersonal affiliations. You have the jurisprudential inquiry, where you are talking about the changes, the assessment learning, where you are talking about the post-active stage of teaching, and the instructional objective, where you are talking about the creativity. So those are the correct matches. So we have the correct matches that we have here. So that's what we talked about. A very important topic. We will be talking about the detailed understanding of these concepts in a separate lecture. But yes, collaborative is where you come together and learn. Jurisprudential is where you are talking about a change for the whole lot, a kind of aggregate mass change that is there. Instructional, we already know what it is. So assessment of learning could be basically a kind of post-active method of teaching. So we talk about three methods, the pre-active and the post-active method. So post-active is something that's happening to understand the result of the assessment of learning, and therefore it becomes important. The next question that's here talks about the evaluation and the assessment procedure. So in the process of evaluation, assessment involves measurement and non-measurement. So assessment would involve both the quantitative and the qualitative analysis, and it could be measured or it could not be measured. So both of those are correct. In any research involving human participation, confidentiality is now a legal consideration. All of these, however, make a right understanding of the concept. But if we say the one which is true in the strictest sense or the most strict sense would be a legal consideration. If it is legal, if it is binding by law, you have to do it. There is no other option that could be taken into consideration. So in India recently, this has been a legal issue and therefore was in news, very, very important. Which is exclusive to ethnographic research, it's a study of culture. So ethnography basically is a qualitative study, talks about the variation and the interactions in the culture. So culture becomes the right answer. The next is, which of the following characteristics of research is not commonly found across all disciplines? So this means if the research is from sciences, social sciences, it's not common to all. But any research, whatever it is, it has to be objective, it has to be verifiable and impartial. So precision is something that is not part of the answer here. When you are writing a research proposal, what you would include? You would include bibliography. So recently we took a class where we talk about differences in bibliography versus references. References is usually part of thesis or a dissertation, where you have actually done the work and you know what you have cited. But bibliography includes the cited and the non-cited concepts. So non-cited concepts are those for future reference and the future research to take place. So when you are in the proposal, you have not yet jotted down all the concepts, it's in the mind, and when you are jotting down, you would be writing it as references, as in thesis and dissertation, but proposal would have a bibliography, and therefore this was a very, very dicey question, very, very important question. So just go through the recent class that we have covered, where we have talked about the references and the bibliography and the differences between the two. The next is, which is not required for research in digital humanities. Now, special knowledge of computer languages is not required. Computer literacy database and open access database and text analysis is something that is required. So what is actually digital humanities? Digital humanities is a field where you are trying to bring in computers with your humanities. So interaction of technology with the core discipline is something that's important, and it would lead to contextual analysis. It would talk about the graphic methods, integral component of the research that would take into account. The next is the correct sequence that could be seen here for the research is, first of all, you would review the literature. Once you have done the review of literature, you would do the research. There would be findings. Now, once there are findings, based on those findings, you would conclude something. And once you have concluded, you would use it. So once you have the research ready, it's ready for either utility or the use. So that's the correct order: literature review, findings, conclusion and utility. A very important question from this section that was asked. So research was very, very important section of the West Bengal set, and therefore this could be probably the same pattern for your NTA examination. So be well prepared with more ideas here. Now, modern theoretical approach in the research originated in the subaltern studies. So subaltern studies started in around 1980s, where we were talking to rewrite the history and rewrite the aspects of nationalism and Marxism. So that's important. The communication which is done among people of equal status is horizontal, upon people of different hierarchy is vertical. So here your correct answer would be horizontal. So all the employees at one level would have similar communication. The TV channel for engineering and technology is Eklavya. So Eklavya is a joint initiative of IIT and IGNOU, and it's basically for the engineering discipline. Now here this is very, very simple. I am saying 1 plus 4 becomes 5. 2 plus 5, that's the next number. So what I am doing is I am doing 1, 2, 3 here. So next would be 4 plus, here it's 4, 5 and 6. So my next number would be 7. But what it would become? From 5 I had 12. So I added 7. From 12 I had 21. So what I did was I added 9. So next I would add 11. So I would add 11 to 21. So 4 plus 7 would be 21 plus 11, that's 32, and so on. So I'll go till 9 plus 12. So if I keep going with each number, so I am adding 11, then 13, then 15, 17, 19, and finally 21. So this comes to be my final answer, which is 117. Now the next question talks about two statements which of both cannot be true. Now this is a problem of square of opposition, contradictory approach, where one is true, the other has to be false. Now if I take the first two statements that make the answer very clear. Dinosaur became extinct in the Cretaceous period. If I say this was true, then dinosaurs were destroyed after the invention of gunpowder automatically becomes false, because gunpowder was much late. So if we go on to the geological time scale, we would see Cretaceous period was much before and gunpowder was much later. So if I am saying they were destroyed here or they became extinct here, they cannot be present here. And simply, not even you need to apply the problem or the concept of square of opposition, you can directly have the answer based on the geological time scale. It was a really important question and an interesting question rather. The next question was, you had the demand and availability for the various categories. The question is asking about railway materials, the percentage growth in the demand. So demand is 400 going up to 450. So 450 minus 400 divided by 400 into 100. So that's 50 by 400. That's 1 by 8. So 1 by 8 into 100 would be your right answer. So you have 12.5 as your correct answer. The next question is, you have the word raptor. Arrange it to form a vegetable. So carrot. So carrot is the vegetable that I can form from this word. So C is the first word, T is the last word. A very direct question that was there. Now you have three squares. The concept is very interesting to understand here. With every square you have two triangles across the diagonal. Now for this diagonal, I see this triangle and this triangle, my sum comes out to 12. Similarly, for this triangle, my sum comes out to 12. That means for every triangle, my sum should be 12. So here already I have 3 and 3. So what should be the number here? The number here should be 6. And similarly, again here it would be 6. So 6 and 6 would be the right pair of answer for this question. The next is, the coding for machine is this. The coding for danger would be, so A stands for 7, C stands for 9, so D would stand for 10. So you would have 10, 7. And then N is standing for 20, so again 20. So 10, 7, 20 would be the right series. So you have D as the right option here. A very direct question. So with this we covered the 25 questions for your West Bengal set examination. The first part will be continuing the next 25 questions in the next part. So stay tuned. Have a great day ahead.